smash that subscribe button before the story gets buried like the files they never wanted found. Like the video if you think the most secure prisons hide the darkest truths. And tell me in the comments, what if ADX Florence isn't the end of the line? The transport convoy never made it to its destination. At 5:42 a.m., just outside a restricted federal transfer route in rural Nevada, a black armored van sat abandoned in the middle of an empty desert highway. Its engine was still running. The rear doors were wide open. And inside, nothing. No inmates. No guards. No signs of a struggle. Just a single pair of restraints, lying neatly on the metal floor unlocked. By the time local authorities arrived, the sun was barely breaking over the horizon, casting a pale blue glow across the scene. The air was still. Too still. Sheriff deputies secured the perimeter quickly, but it didn't take long for the situation to escalate. This wasn't a routine transport gone wrong. This was federal. And whatever had happened here wasn't supposed to happen anywhere. Special Agent Marcus Hale arrived just after 7 a.m. He didn't waste time with introductions. His eyes moved fast, scanning everything. The tire marks, the open doors, the untouched weapons still secured in their racks. "Walk me through it," he said. A local deputy swallowed. "We got the call from Highway Patrol. Vehicle flagged for inactivity. When they approached, this is how they found it. No bodies." The deputy shook his head. Nothing. No blood. No drag marks. No footprints outside the vehicle either. Hale crouched near the rear of the van, studying the restraints. Unlocked. Not broken. Not forced. "Who were they transporting?" he asked. The deputy hesitated. That hesitation again. Hale looked up sharply. "Tell me." "2 inmates," the deputy said. "High-level federal transfers. We don't have names yet, but—" "You do," Hale cut in. "You're just not cleared to say them." Silence. Hale stood slowly, brushing dust from his gloves. "Let me guess," he said. "Black site relocation." The deputy didn't answer. He didn't need to. 3 hours later, Hale sat inside a temporary command tent set up along the highway. Satellite feeds flickered across multiple screens, but none showed anything useful. No vehicle leaving the scene. No aerial anomaly. No trace. It was as if the van had been opened, and its contents had simply vanished. "Agent Hale." He turned. A woman stepped inside, her posture rigid, her expression controlled. Early 40s. Sharp eyes. No wasted movement. "Dr. Elena Voss," she said. "Department of Justice, Special Projects Division." Hale raised an eyebrow. Didn't know DOJ had a Special Projects Division. Voss gave a faint smile. "Most people don't." She placed a thin file on the table. "Your case just became classified." Inside the file, there were only a few pages. No photos. No detailed reports. Just names. 2 inmates. Elias Kaur. Daniel Mercer. Hale read them twice. Neither name rang a bell. "No priors listed," he said. "No background, no charges." "What am I looking at?" Voss folded her hands behind her back. "You're looking at individuals who were never meant to exist in the system." Hale looked up slowly. "That's not how the system works." Voss met his gaze. "You'd be surprised." The first real lead came from something small, almost insignificant. One of the guards' body cams. It had malfunctioned during the incident. Static, distortion, intermittent signal loss. But for exactly 4 seconds, it worked. The footage was grainy, washed in blue static, but it showed the inside of the van moments before everything went dark. Hale watched it in silence. The 2 inmates sat across from each other, restrained, calm. Too calm. Then, one of them, Kaur, looked up, directly into the camera, and smiled. Hale paused the footage. He knew it was there. Voss nodded slightly. "He knows more than that." Hale rewound the clip, slowing it down frame by frame. That's when he saw it. A reflection. Faint. In the metal wall, behind Kaur. A shape that didn't belong. A door. But not the van's door. Something else. Something inside the van that shouldn't exist. "Zoom in," Hale said. The technician enhanced the image, pushing the resolution as far as it would go. The reflection sharpened just enough to reveal a seam. Perfectly straight. Perfectly aligned. A hidden panel. Hale leaned back, exhaling slowly. "That's not transport standard," he said. Voss didn't respond immediately. Then, "No," she said quietly. "It's not." By late afternoon, the van had been moved to a secure federal facility for full forensic analysis. Hale walked around it slowly, his mind working through the impossible. A sealed transport. No external breach. No internal damage. And yet, 2 high-risk inmates gone without a trace. "Agent Hale." He turned. Voss stood near the rear doors. "There's something you need to see." Inside the facility, the van sat under harsh overhead lights. Panels had been removed. Wiring exposed. But the structure remained intact. "Here," Voss said, pointing to the interior wall. At first, Hale didn't see it. Then, there, a faint outline. A section of metal slightly different from the rest. "Hidden compartment," he said. Voss nodded. "Not in any official design." Hale stepped closer, running his fingers along the seam. "Open it." The technicians hesitated. Now, with a low mechanical click, the panel shifted, sliding inward, revealing a narrow passage. Impossible. There was no space for it. Not within the dimensions of the vehicle. And yet it was there. Dark. Silent. Waiting. Hale grabbed a flashlight and stepped forward. The passage extended further than it should have. Much further. The air inside was colder. Staler. Like something sealed away for far too long. "What is this?" one of the technicians whispered. Hale didn't answer. Because he already had a suspicion. And he didn't like it. At the end of the passage, there was a small chamber. Bare. Except for one thing. A screen. Still powered. Still active. Hale approached it slowly. The screen flickered. Then stabilized. And what it showed made his blood run cold. A live feed. From somewhere else. A facility. Bright. Sterile. Nothing like ADX Florence. More advanced. More controlled. More hidden. "Where is that?" Hale asked. Voss didn't respond immediately. When she finally did, her voice was quieter than before. "Somewhere even more secure." Hale's eyes narrowed. "There is nothing more secure than ADX." Voss looked at him, and for the first time, there was something close to unease in her expression. "You're wrong," she said. The screen shifted. The camera angle changed. And suddenly, 2 figures came into view, walking freely, unrestrained. Elias Core. Daniel Mercer. Hale stepped closer. "They're not escaping." Voss shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "They're being received." A door opened on the screen. Heavy. Reinforced. Sealing behind them as they entered. And just before it closed completely, Hale saw it. A marking on the wall. Clean. Precise. 3 vertical lines intersected by a single horizontal stroke. The same symbol. Hale turned sharply to Voss. "You knew." Silence. Then, "Yes." The weight of it hit hard. "This wasn't a transfer," Hale said. "It was a delivery." Voss didn't deny it. Hale's voice dropped. "Where is that facility?" Voss hesitated. And that hesitation told him everything. "Dr. Voss," Hale said, his tone now dangerously controlled. "If those men are inside a site more secure than ADX Florence, then this isn't just a prison system. A beat. It's something else." Voss met his eyes. And this time, she didn't hide it. "No," she said. "It's not a prison." The screen flickered again. And before it cut out completely, a single line of text appeared. "Unauthorized access detected." Then the feed went black. Hale stood frozen, staring at the empty screen. Because, in that moment, he realized something that changed everything. Those men hadn't escaped. They had been moved somewhere no one was supposed to know existed. And if that place was real, then ADX Florence was never the final destination. It was just the front door. But when Hale turned back to the van, he noticed something that hadn't been there before. Scratched faintly into the metal interior. Fresh. Deliberate. 3 words. "We are inside." And suddenly, this wasn't a missing persons case anymore. It was an infiltration. And they had just let it happen. The words wouldn't leave his head. "We are inside." Marcus Hale stood in silence, staring at the scratched metal, as if it might rearrange itself into something less dangerous. But it didn't. The message stayed exactly as it was, cold, deliberate, and impossibly calm. Behind him, the facility buzzed with controlled panic. Technicians moved faster, voices lower, tension tighter. The kind of atmosphere that only formed when people realized they were already too late. Hale turned slowly. "Lock this place down." A supervisor blinked. "This is already a secure federal site." Hale's voice hardened. "Not anymore." Within minutes, the building shifted into full containment protocol. External access was cut. Internal movement restricted. Every door required dual authorization. But Hale knew something the others didn't. If the message was true, then containment didn't matter. Because whatever inside meant, it had already happened. Dr. Elena Voss stood near the central terminal, reviewing incoming data streams. For the first time since Hale had met her, she looked unsettled. Not panicked, but aware. There was a difference. "You didn't tell me everything," Hale said, stepping up beside her. Voss didn't look away from the screen. "I told you what you needed to know. That's not the same thing." Now she turned. "You saw the footage. You saw the symbol. You know this goes beyond ADX Florence." Hale nodded slowly. "Yeah, I do." A pause. "Which is exactly why you're going to tell me what this really is." Voss studied him for a moment, as if weighing something internal. Then she exhaled. "There are facilities," she said, choosing her words carefully, "that don't exist on official records. Not because they're illegal, but because they operate outside conventional oversight." Hale folded his arms. "Black sites." "Not exactly," she replied. "Black sites still answer to someone. These were built for problems that couldn't be processed through the normal system." "Define problems." Voss hesitated. "Then, people who couldn't be contained." The words hung heavy. Hale's mind immediately went to the footage. Core, Mercer, calm, controlled, smiling. "They didn't look uncontrollable," he said. Voss shook her head slightly. "That's the point. The most dangerous individuals aren't the ones who act out. They're the ones who adapt." A sudden alert cut through the room. Sharp, urgent. Every screen flickered simultaneously. "Unauthorized system access," a technician called out. "Something's inside the network." Hale's head snapped toward the monitors. "Trace it." "I'm trying. It's not external. It's already inside our system." The room fell silent. Not the silence of confusion. The silence of realization. "We are inside," Hale repeated under his breath. The screen stabilized, but what appeared next wasn't system data. It was video. Live. From inside the facility. A hallway camera. Blue lit. Empty. At first. Then. Movement. A figure stepped into frame. Walking slowly. Calmly. Not running. Not hiding. Just moving like they belonged there. Hale leaned forward. "Who is that?" The technician zoomed in. The image sharpened, and Hale felt his stomach drop. It was one of the guards from the transport convoy, the one listed as missing. "That's impossible," someone whispered. "He's been off-grid for hours." The guard stopped in the middle of the hallway, then looked directly into the camera, and smiled. Hale felt the tension snap into focus. "This isn't infiltration," he said. "It's insertion." The video feed cut abruptly, replaced by another, then another. Different angles, different corridors, and in each one, movement. Figures appearing where there should have been none. "They're inside the building," Monroe said, her voice low, steady, but strained. "Lock all interior sections," Hale ordered. "Now." "We already did," the technician replied. A beat. "They're bypassing it." Voss stepped forward, her expression tightening. "They're not bypassing it." Hale turned. "Then what are they doing?" Her answer came quiet. "They're part of it." That didn't make sense. And yet, everything about this case had stopped making sense hours ago. Hale grabbed a tablet and pulled up the facility's personnel registry. "Cross-check every face we've seen," he said. "I want identities, access levels, everything." The system processed for a moment, then returned results. And every single one made it worse. "No matches," the technician said. "They're not in the system." Hale stared at the screen. Not in the system. Again. Just like Core. Just like Mercer. Ghost entries, he muttered. Voss shook her head. No, she said. Not ghosts. A pause. Replacements. Before Hale could respond, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then dimmed. Emergency blue lighting took over, casting long shadows across the room. Backup systems failing, someone shouted. We're losing control of internal infrastructure. Hale turned toward the main doors. Seal the command center. They're already sealed. Then reinforce it. A loud metallic sound echoed from the hallway outside. Not a bang. Not an impact. Something more controlled. Precise. Like a lock disengaging. Everyone froze. Another sound. Closer now. Footsteps. Hale moved toward the door, his posture tightening, every instinct on edge. Stay behind me, he said. Monroe nodded, her hand hovering near her radio. The footsteps stopped just outside. Silence again. But this time, it felt different. Not empty. Occupied. Then, a voice. Calm. Measured. On the other side of the door. Agent Hale. Hale's blood ran cold. Because he recognized it. Elias Core. That's not possible, Monroe whispered. Core continued. You're looking in the wrong direction. Hale stepped closer to the door. You're not supposed to be here. A faint chuckle echoed through the metal. That's the thing about systems, Core said. They only work if you believe in their boundaries. Hale clenched his jaw. What do you want? A pause. Then, to show you. The lights flickered again, harder this time. And for a brief second, everything went completely dark. When the lights came back on, the door was open. No damage. No forced entry. Just open. Hale stepped forward slowly. The hallway beyond was empty. Silent. Clear. But something was wrong. He could feel it. The air itself felt different. On the floor, just outside the doorway, there was something new. Something that hadn't been there before. A file. Thin. Unmarked. Hale picked it up carefully. Opened it. Inside. Photos. Dozens of them. All taken inside facilities. Some looked like ADX. Others, more advanced. More controlled. And in every single one, there were people. Standing still. Looking at the camera. Watching. Hale flipped to the last page. And that's when everything stopped. Because the final photo was taken inside this building. Inside this command center. And in the image, everyone in the room was there. Frozen. Captured from behind. Except one person. Standing near the center. Facing the camera. Smiling. Hale slowly lowered the file. His pulse hammering now. Because he didn't need to turn around to know what he was about to see. But he did anyway. And when he did, the room felt instantly smaller. Because someone wasn't where they were supposed to be. Dr. Elena Voss was gone. And in her place, on the main screen, a single line of text appeared. Transfer complete. The room didn't move. No one spoke. Transfer complete. The words burned across the main screen, steady, unblinking, like they had always been there, waiting for someone to finally understand them. Marcus Hale didn't blink. He couldn't. Because in that moment, something inside him locked into place. This wasn't a breach. It wasn't even an infiltration. It was a handoff. Where is she? Monroe demanded, her voice cutting through the silence. No one answered. Because no one had seen Dr. Elena Voss leave. There had been no door opening. No footsteps. No alert. She had simply ceased to be in the room. Hale stepped forward slowly, his eyes fixed on the screen. Transfer, he repeated quietly. Not escape. Not extraction. Transfer. That means she didn't leave, he said. Monroe frowned. Then where did she go? Hale's jaw tightened. She's still here. A sharp alert interrupted them. Not from the system. From something deeper. A low-frequency hum rolled through the floor, vibrating up through the walls. Subtle, but undeniable. The building itself was responding. Power fluctuation? A technician asked. Hale shook his head. No. He looked around the room. They're moving something. The lights dimmed again, shifting from cold blue to a harsher, almost clinical white. Then, the screens changed. Every single one. No longer showing security feeds. No longer showing system errors. Now, they showed a blueprint. A structure. Layered. Complex. Far larger than the facility they were standing in. What am I looking at? Monroe asked. Hale didn't answer immediately. Because he recognized the design. Not from any file. But from the pattern. Multiple sectors. Multiple containment zones. All connected. All feeding into a central core. This isn't just one facility, Hale said slowly. It's a network. The blueprint shifted, zooming inward, focusing, and then it highlighted something. A section labeled only with a code. Sublevel 7. Monroe stepped closer. We don't have a sublevel 7. Hale's voice dropped. Officially, no. The hum intensified. The floor beneath them vibrated slightly now, like something massive was powering up below. Access point. Hale asked. A technician scrambled across the interface. There's no registered entry. The screen pulsed. Then, a single route illuminated. A path. Starting from their current position. Leading downward. They're showing us, Monroe said. Hale nodded once. Yeah. A pause. Which means they want us to go. That should have been enough to stop them. To lock everything down and call in reinforcements. But Hale already knew. Reinforcements wouldn't help. Because, whatever this was, it had been operating long before anyone noticed. Move, Hale said. The path led them through a service corridor that wasn't marked on any map. Narrow. Unfinished. Cold air pushing upward from below. Why build something like this under a federal site? Monroe asked. Hale didn't slow down. You don't build it under, he said. You build the facility on top of it. At the end of a corridor, they found it. A door. Reinforced. Sealed. No handle. No keypad. Just a smooth surface. And the symbol. 3 vertical lines intersected by 1 horizontal stroke. Monroe exhaled slowly. Same as before. Hale stepped forward, studied it, then pressed his hand against the surface. Nothing happened. For a moment. Then, a soft click. The door slid open. What lay beyond wasn't what they expected. It wasn't a prison. It wasn't a lab. It was something in between. A massive underground chamber stretched out before them, lit by cold, even lighting that erased shadows. Rows of glass enclosures lined the space. Hundreds of them, each one occupied. People. Standing. Sitting. Watching. All silent. All still. Monroe's breath caught. How many? Hale didn't answer. Because he was already walking forward, scanning faces. Different ages. Different backgrounds. No uniforms. No identifiers. They're not inmates, Monroe whispered. No, Hale said. They're assets. At the center of the chamber. There it was. The core. A circular platform surrounded by monitors, cables feeding into it from every direction. And standing on it, Dr. Elena Voss. She turned as they approached. Calm. Composed. Like nothing had changed. Hale stopped a few feet away. You're going to explain this. Voss smiled faintly. I already did. Hale shook his head. No. You lied. Voss tilted her head slightly. Did I? She gestured around them. This is what comes after ADX Florence, she said. Not containment. Not punishment. A pause. Control. Monroe's voice rose. These people, what did you do to them? Nothing they didn't become, Voss replied calmly. Hale stepped forward. You're rewriting them. Conditioning behavior. Turning them into what? Operatives. Voss didn't deny it. The world doesn't run on chaos, Agent Hale, she said. It runs on predictability, influence, precision. Hale's eyes hardened. And you think this is justified? I think it's inevitable. A silence fell between them. Heavy. Final. Then, a voice echoed through the chamber. Agent Hale. Hale turned. Elias Core stepped out from between the glass enclosures. Free. Unrestrained. You made it, Core said. Hale's stance shifted. You wanted me here. Core nodded slightly. Of course. Why? Core's smile returned. Because you're exactly the kind of person this system needs. Monroe stepped back. Don't listen to him. But Hale didn't move. Because something didn't feel right. He looked at Voss, at Core, at the chamber full of silent people. And then, he noticed it. One of the glass enclosures, near the edge of the room, empty. The only one. A slow realization crept in. Hale's voice dropped. Who was in that one? Voss and Core exchanged a glance. Brief. Meaningful. Then Voss stepped aside slightly, revealing the panel beside the empty enclosure. A name. Just one. Marcus Hale. The world seemed to tilt. Monroe's voice cracked. No, that's not. Hale didn't hear the rest. Because, in that moment, everything made sense. The access. The clearance. The way he had been brought into the case. Not assigned. Selected. Core stepped closer. You were never investigating this, he said softly. A pause. You were being processed. Hale's pulse thundered in his ears. Transfer complete. The words flashed again on the screens above. And suddenly, the chamber didn't feel like a discovery. It felt like a destination. Monroe grabbed his arm. We can get out. But Hale didn't move. Because deep down, he realized something far more terrifying than anything he had seen. There had never been a way out. Only the next level. And somewhere far above them, another transport convoy was already on the road, carrying the next case. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what comes next.